You are looking live from a black man's living room in Kansas City, Missouri. Yo, it's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a podcast to step to. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you may find yourself as you listen to this and you are tuned in to one of the only sports podcasts with brains, bars, and the champion of the year. It's another episode of It's a Black and White Thing featuring A1 and A Ward. You can check out every episode of the pod by going to the podcast app of your choice. Wherever you find a good podcast, give us 5 stars. Talk to us in the comments. We talk back. You can also check us out. By the way, there was someone who did actually hit us in the comments, by the way. He was a big fan. He said he'd be obviously of Ward, not of me, because he doesn't know me like that. But he said he's a big fan of Ward. He didn't know he was doing a sports pod that he would be tuning in more often. So appreciate you, sir. But you can also check us out live on YouTube. Search Brains and Bars. Hit the like button. Hit the notification bell. All that good stuff. Again, holler at us in the comments. We talk back as well there. You can check us out on Twitter for the time being. You can check us out. Might be moving to Twitch as well at some point. You can check us out on Facebook, both on my live page, my personal page, as well as the fan page. You can find the fan page by searching Brains and Bars and signing and subscribing there. Shout out to Wesley Forte in the building. What up, Wes? So as I was saying, I don't do this podcast by myself. I have my homie. According to one good friend, the man that we bullied into becoming the champion of the year, we got the homie Ward in the building. What's going on, man?
Yo, that's funny. That's funny, man. Low key. He was not. He was telling the truth. Low key. But it's okay. That's another story for another time, man. Yeah, it's good to jump back on here, and good to be back, man. It's been a long time, probably 6 weeks, maybe.
It's been a minute. It has been a minute. We were supposed to record like 2 weeks ago, and after work, I just didn't feel like it. I just like,
yeah,
I'm straight. Like
I don't think that we even really got much into March Madness, did we? So it might have been.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Yeah,
it was before the tournament started. So no, we have not been live since before the tournament started.
Yeah,
because I remember I kept thinking like there were topics I wanted to hit on the tournament. Obviously, I don't have my Carolina hat on, but Hubert Davis got fired, Duke collapsed, Michigan's triumphant win of the tournament.
Texas, Tennessee losing in the Elite Eight.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on. Life happens. Shout out to Los. But I'll say this. I didn't even say nothing about did I say anything about Duke?
Not yet. I mean, it's just, he's just feeling a certain way right now. I mean, they just got they literally just got the best top 5 player in the portal, and he's got complaints. So
who'd they get?
Wisconsin, the guard from Wisconsin.
Shout out to
like 20 points a game or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't even say anything about Duke. I could have brought it up, I guess. My bad. Would you like for me to talk about it? Because listen, if you want me to talk about them losing in crushing fashion, fumbling the bag, literally blowing a 15-point lead in the second half, not being able to execute and break a press. You had your freshman point guard who couldn't get the ball over top to his guys. It gets deflected, picked off. They come back down quick, change of possession. You got Caravan kicks it to Braylon Mullins, logo 3-pointer to take the lead and crush all of Duke's hopes and dreams and keep them from making the Final Four. And now we have to have questions about Jon Scheyer. Is he a good big game coach? He blew the lead at Carolina. He blew the lead to Texas Tech. He blew the lead to UConn. He blew the league in the Final Four last year to Houston. I mean, do we have questions? Do we need to talk about Jon Scheyer and his ability to win big games? Los, I don't want to hear. You were sitting right there beside me watching the Final Four, my good friend. I don't want to hear about that. So again, you brought this up. I wasn't going to talk about Duke. I wasn't even playing. That wasn't even in my head. I have a whole different agenda. As a matter of fact, let's get to this agenda. First off, sir, how does it feel to be Cody? How does it feel? How does it feel to be potentially the last champion of the year?
No, it feels great, man. It's a long time coming. It feels, well deserved. Good year last year. I'm getting a phone call. Good, we can hear me. Sorry about that. I'll turn my do not disturb on in a second. Really good year last year. I don't think it was my best year. I think I've had other years that were better, but in comparison to like everybody's years, I definitely think it was the best. Yeah, man, it's always good to be kind of written in the history books of something. You know, it's not like an award they can really take away from because it's validated and stamped with all the previous winners. And like, when you have Geechee Gotti's and Rum Nitties and Chilla Jones and Tay Rocks and people like that, it's an award that is like, hey, it meant something then, it means something now. It's not a situation where it's like, whoever wins it, that validates it. You know what I mean? So I definitely am appreciative, and I thought they got it right. I did. They should have got it right 3 or 4 other times in the last 9 years, but
Man, I was thinking back, like, first of all, shout out to Jay Black. Jay Black to me is an inspiration. He is one of the more solid dudes in not just in battle rap, but even outside of battle rap. Him putting this on for the past 9 years, it has been a roller coaster ride to watch, especially when you have people like yourself that I'm connected to who have made this run, who've been in the top 10, who've been in the top 5. There was what I feel like. Now, mind you, Geechee is obviously, he has the most champion of the years. He is, if you want to talk about, when you talk about the history of the award, the first name you have to mention is his. But I feel like yours is, when you talk about some of the most talked about names in relation to Cody winning or losing, I feel like your name has to be up there high in top 3, top 5.
Yeah.
You have Geechee's first year where there was this whole discussion of, well, he lost the award. So what did we do with that, right? You have another year where I feel like you finished top 4. Well, you have the year where you finished 20th because Polo went on a campaign to say this guy is not, he should be 20th, and he convinced the entire room to agree with him on that somehow.
Yeah.
You have that year. You have the year where it was, I think this is 21, where
that's the year I felt like I should have won it, when I finished 5th, and Geechee won it, and they had Surf, who had 3 battles, Easy, who had just a handful of battles, and one other person ahead of me. And I think that was the one year. Maybe that's kind of like maybe Nitty. That was kind of the year where I was like, I thought to myself, they're never going to give me my just due. You know what I mean? Like, I felt that way, But yeah, that was definitely, and that was the rematch year. Obviously, I felt like I beat beat Geechee the second time. Then turned right around and battled Homeschool on iBattle, and just had like a really, really good ending to the year. But yeah, I agree. I've been talked about whether it's, oh my goodness, how you put him at 20th, or, hey, top 5, top 10. I think outside of Nitty, I have the most top 10s of anybody, well, Geechee as well. It's like Geechee, Nitty, and me is like, as far as top 10s for 9 years running. I think I've had 7. But yeah, so it's been pretty dope.
Yeah, but to watch the thing, and also the thing I appreciate about Jay Black is that I don't know how much fan criticism he took into crafting these groups, but you have, like, if the very first champion of the year, I can't remember when he crowned Old Red, if there was a panel or not, or there might have been, I think there was a panel. And if it was, that first panel had to do with, like, there was a guy on the panel who was like, if you didn't battle on URL, you're not getting a vote from me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who that guy was. I just remember him saying, like, yo, if you didn't battle there, I don't care. Like, your battles don't care to me.
Yeah, he's done a good job of kind of reeling it in, over the last 3 years, finding the specific criteria and, weeding out the ones that, are just going to be, very biased to certain things. I think he's done a good job of reeling that in. But ultimately, it takes a lot of work. These guys are really watching a lot of battles. And so sometimes even then, like the battlers' opinions can be skewed. Like I can have an opinion and be like, I should have won this, but then I could have just, I tell you this much, I didn't watch all 30 of Loso's battles. I didn't watch all, 16 or 20 of Chef Trez's battles, so these guys, they're tasked with being on the panel to go in and really watch.
I might have lost.
Hold on. I might have lost you. You good?
Check 1 2 1 2.
Yep. You can hear me?
Yep. Hold on. You're back.
All right. I'm back. Are you back?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't charged my laptop up, and so it was dying. So I didn't want to have the show just end abruptly while you're in the middle of talking. So you were saying you haven't watched all these battles, right? You hadn't watched all the Loso.
Yeah, so I'm saying, a lot of times, even when I'm going back and saying like I felt like I should have been this or I felt like I should have been that, some of that stuff can be skewed, my opinion based, because these guys that are on a panel, are tasked with really doing their research and knowing, who won, the small league battles, the big league battles of the top 20 to 25 names that they're going to go through. And that's, to me, like that round of applause to them for taking the time out to really lock in and watch all of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's been a wild ride. I know he has talked about potentially maybe coming back and doing it for a 10th year just to finish on a nice round number. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, congratulations.
Try and refresh your video if you can. Like go off on your video and back on if you can, because now for me it's like a little bit off and it's real fuzzy. So I don't know if that's for the viewers as well.
Yep. Hold
that's
on.
My dogs go crazy.
I'm going to solo you for just a second. So I'm going to give you this question.
All right, cool.
And then you answer it, and I'm going to jump out and jump back in. So here's the question. This is from Mo Mitchell about the Boozer twins. So it's about Caden Boozer, about him returning back to Duke. He says, if you're the brother returning, if you're Caden returning to Duke because you're not ready, do you feel some sort of way knowing your brother would be a lottery pick? And go.
Do I feel some sort of way? No, I think, I think that he's probably dealt with that as a twin his entire life, knowing that his brother was like the better basketball player. I think that, ultimately Caden is going to end up in the NBA at some point in time. But watching him play, I think it's just clear that he definitely needs another year or two. So I don't think that he's feeling some sort of way towards his brother in regards to that, because I'm sure that just the mental side of that has been, through high school and through everything. You got to be tough mentally, and so with a brother like that, and with a father, not even just your brother, your father played in the NBA. Like there's a lot of pressure, a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So I trust that that he's well equipped for that.
Yep. Shout out to Mama Ward too. This is the first year the fan vote was given to a battler that wasn't in the top two. That was Tay Rock. He was crowned the winner of the fan vote. I feel like Tay Rock is always going to be hard to beat in the fan vote, though. But shout out also. But I think times have changed. I think the first champion of the year, it probably got up to like the pot got up to probably like $7,000 or $8,000, and I think Jay Black kind of made up the rest to get to 10, I believe, something like that. And now the pot, look, it's a hard, tough economy. Times is hard, so having people to have disposable income to give to champion of the year is tough. But if Black does bring it back, I think as battlers, it's got to be on y'all to promote it, to be like, yo, like, hey, I think I'm the champion of the year. Give to it. So, and when you get your Cody ballot, right? Answer the questions, go through, try to answer with some objectivity. Don't just go, yeah, my guy. If you can, yeah. Make sure y'all tap in and vote, man. And whenever they, the Cody presentation happens, make sure y'all tap into that as well. But yeah,
it's an interesting, the champion of the year is kind of tied to the state of battle rap. We've had years that were very, fruitful, very, monetarily, the bags, the energy and everything. And then this past year, to me, was I don't think it was a down year at all in the raps, and that's what I'm always focused on. You know what I mean? I think there's still amazing rappers, amazing performances, amazing battles. But unfortunately, in the promo side of it, and then the what the media is pushing and what people like to talk about, and the state of it, it's kind of just been toxic, and it's been all about everything that's not the raps. And it just goes to show too, since being announced, Cody, that everybody is just searching for the clicks, like they just want to figure out, and so there's more blogs and more stuff out there about, this person's drama, this person's that, whatever, all this other stuff, this event, this whatever, than there is, the actual champion of the year stuff. And so I just say, one, like, I'm blessed to be in the position to have accepted the award and had a great year. And like, I'm always going to keep it on the raps. Like, I'm always going to keep it on the raps. And like, that's just always going to be me. I'm going to do my best to stay away from any of the people talking about me all the time in blogs and stuff like that, because to me, that's just normally toxic and drama. So.
All right. So I'm going to try to shift this conversation because I feel like that's a good point. I'll say this last thing about Cody. The year that you finished either 4th or 5th, it cracks me up because that was the year Surf battled like 3 times in like 90 days. I think it was October, November, December. He was amazing, was phenomenal. And I just remember Anwar, shout out to Anwar, when it came down to the conversation of you versus Surf over who should be ranked higher. And I just remember him saying consistency. What does consistency mean in the dictionary? And France was like, well, Anwar, like Ward battled 20 times this past year, and he was consistent in 19 of the 20. This is the XL battle, is the only battle where you really weren't up to par. And so it's like Surf for 3 for 3. 3 for 3 is 100%. What is 19 to 20 out of 20? And it's just like, okay, yeah. But speaking of Surf, shout out, the wave is finally free. And I'll say this for myself personally. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that he's out. I'm glad that he wasted no time pulling up the spaces, and having a late evening conversation with a few people in the culture, yourself included. I've never known anyone personally because look, I'm a civilian. I'm not I wasn't out there in the streets. So I've never known anybody personally that's ever been to jail for a bid. But when he got locked up, like it did something to me. And I've never met Surf. I don't know him personally, never had the opportunity to hang out with him. But, I feel like in battle rap, you feel like you know these people to a degree because you watch them in interviews and blogs and battles. So it kind of hurt my heart when he got locked up. So I'm glad that he's home. He pulled up to the spaces. You were one of the people that he talked to. I don't know how many people he talked to. I know Easy, you, Mook. I went to sleep. I ain't gonna hold you. It was late. I'm like, I'm going to bed.
I think that was pretty much it. I know he ended the space soon after we got done talking. I know Lux was on the phone with Mook, but I think Lux just said hello. I don't think it was really like any kind of conversation. But yeah,
got you. So just for yourself, like, what was that for you? What was that like to just have that? You guys chatted about maybe 5 or so minutes. What was it like to have that conversation with Surf on Spaces last night?
Yeah, going into it, obviously on Summer Madness, I have the line, free to wave and bring them to me. And so, I was serious about that, I was serious about that in regards to like, yo, that's a battle I want, now, once I knew that he had gotten out, as a person, not as a battle rapper, not as a competitor or anything like that, my first thought is I rock with Surf. Like, it's always been respect. It's always been love. You know what I mean? Like, I rock with Surf. I'm not going to be online, like, calling him out, trashing his name, doing none of that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not going into promo mode like the dude just got out of jail. Like, by all means, go spend time with your family. If you don't ever want to battle again, I'm not going to use your name in that aspect of promo to try to get a battle, like I'm just not, so, when he decided to do his space, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a listener. Like, I'd like to, just pause, but like, I want to hear his voice. I'm happy he's home. I missed him too. You know what I mean? Like, like it's good people. Now, bringing me up, in the conversation that we had, I don't want to say it opened up the promo, because he did have some things to say. He did have, it was a very cordial conversation, which that's what it was going to be. I wasn't about to pop in there and just start talking crazy and trying to make a scene or a situation. That's just not my style. It was a cordial conversation. I think what it showed is that, one, he's been watching me. He knows what I'm doing. He always respects the talent, the grind, and two, I think it showed that he doesn't want smoke, and he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy, and he doesn't want the smoke right now. And normally what happens when guys are super popular, super just whatever, they always try to talk above you. They always try to minimize you in certain ways that make it seem like you're not ready for them, And to me, it's just a defense mechanism to say yo, I'm not, I'd rather battle these other guys. These other guys to me are easier battles, or these other guys are going to get me paid more. One thing I've always gone by, and I've always told everybody, I'm a competitor. I'm a warrior. I'm not in get your money. You know what I mean? I'm not in it to get the most money, to make the most views, to do all of that kind of stuff. I'm not. But I'll tell you this much: you can't beat me. And if there's any of y'all that are still out there that are up on your high horse, that are guaranteed millions of views, that are the legends or whatever, that are still have some kind of competitive heart, then what you should be looking at is the champion, the current person who is ranked #1 in the world. You know what I mean? Is looking at you saying, you can't beat me in a battle. So rather than saying, yeah, it's going to take a few more years, or you're not up there yet, or you don't do this, that, and the third, you know what I mean? If you was a real competitor, you would say, look, if somebody wants to book it, I'm with it, And so, kind of from that conversation, the respect was there, the love was there. But I think, Surf is looking for one of them grudge matches between the other two that he talked to with Mook and Easy, for that super big bag. And because he could talk to them a little bit different than he can talk to me.
That's very interesting. So I feel like you've answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So when right after he takes you down as a speaker, right? And then he brings, I don't know if he brings Easy back, I think, and they kind of talk a little bit before he brings Mook into the.
I think he was talking to Polo. Who?
Thank you. It was Polo.
Yeah.
It was Polo. Because he was saying, Polo was saying there's one other name that you didn't mention. He was like, nah, I'm not. It's not even worth it.
Right.
So he says about you, he says, he gonna have to win 2-3 more Codys in a row before he thinks he can step on the stage with me.
Yeah.
Your response to that is?
He said it when I got off the line. You know what I mean? He knows how quick-witted I am. He knows that if the conversation would have went there while we were talking, then I would have had clearance to be like, oh, that's where we're going. You know what I mean? Because I was there for just kind of a respectable, welcome home type situation, So when he says that, it's I'm already off the line, I damn near wanted to request back up and be like, all right, cool. Because, when he battled T-Top was in a part of his career, you know what I mean? A similar part of where I'm at in my career, when he battled Rum Nitty he wasn't a Cody. He was just a really good battle rapper in the world, so we're not going to sit here and act like he hasn't ever battled a guy who is considered to be one of the best battle rappers, who's battling on all stages, all leagues, and all that kind of stuff, And so all that told me was that he knew better than to open up that can of worms while we was talking. And two, that once again, if I speak like I'm above you, if I speak like I'm so far above you, you know what I mean? Then the fans will gravitate to my opinion. They'll start to believe what I'm saying because he's Surf. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You know what I mean? I don't rock with Polo at all, right? This is well documented. Me and Polo aren't cool. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to hear him because it says blocked underneath his little name when I'm in the spaces. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. But Polo was like, I want to see you verse A-Ward. Jay Black's like, I want to see you verse A-Ward. You know what I mean? People are saying they want to see this. and he's gravitating to the two that he wants for a certain reason, and that's where I go back to say, like, listen, just say it's a numbers game. Just say, yo, Ward, you're not gonna make me as much money as this guy's gonna make me. If that's the case, cool. Because it can't be a competition thing, because I'm the best in the world. I'm beating your peers. I'm battling on the highest stages. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. It can't be just a competition. Like, I really want to get in the ring with one of the best because I'm him. So, and whereas I do think it will do numbers, you know what I mean? I just think that, he understands the promo side of it, and he understands that when they put Surf and Mook together, Mook is Mook. So the entire world is going to be, when they put Surf and Easy together, Easy's going to sell that mug every day because Easy desires to be talked about every day. He loves to be in front of the camera and, like that guy, you know what I mean? And so you're going to book that battle. I'm going to talk a little trash. I'm going to do a little bit, whatever we do back and forth. But the war is going to be when they flip the coin. That's where the war is going to be.
Yeah, I'm not. So shout out to Sheldon. I mean, listen, I know Ward isn't a big fan of Polo, but I'm not going to jump into a slander bag. I don't know Polo like that. Never talked to him. So, but I put 99% of the comments on the screen. So take nothing from that. Right.
Yeah. Shout out to Sheldon. So, Sheldon knows ball.
Let me say this. So like I said, I think I'm glad he's back. I'm interested to see what his next moves are. I think that financially, I'm gonna say this.
Look, he said he needed 220. They can get me for just a 20 right now. You know what I mean? Like, the other guys are gonna charge them crazy amounts. So financially, they can get me for the 20. Give Surf the 220, and we're gonna go to war.
Ward, never. First of all, as your friend, do not give them your price. Because listen, let's just say
it ain't about the money to me.
I understand it's not about the money, but that doesn't mean that you don't maximize the bread too. So y'all didn't hear that. We're gonna scratch that. We're gonna scratch that from the broadcast. Today's price is not yesterday's price. He might need 30 or 35 or 40. Who knows what's gonna happen here in the next couple of, by the time he did from today to the point where he battles Surf. Today's price might not be tomorrow's price. So don't
after what I do to his youngin, after what I do to Chess, and then after I take care of Gnome, then we might be talking, But listen, hey, today's price is today's price. So if you hear this and the direct deposit gets hit, listen, but I can't guarantee that it don't change.
Shout out to Isaiah, man. Homie Izzy in the building. Yo, so let's speaking of that. So the chess battle. I don't want to necessarily talk about that, but I do want to get to the main reason why we are gathered here tonight. So one of the things that Surf did say in Spaces, he made mention of, he felt like that the culture needed a little bit of a reset. He felt like they needed a TO, some behind the scenes conversation needed to happen. He made comments about, battlers battling every week on this league, that league, here league, that league. And he felt like that the battle rappers are oversaturating the product. He felt like there are too many leagues, right? And so the last time we were supposed to record, this was going to be the topic. I feel like I have a plan that can fix battle rap. And so I want to present this plan. I don't know if you remember how much it is, because we talked about this in the group chat first. I know me and Loso had a bunch of dialogue about it personally. And yeah. And so to me, here's the plan that needs to be enacted to save battle rap. And this is in a perfect world, right? I understand that in reality, a lot of what I'm saying will not happen unless egos and get checked at the door. Okay. And that goes from the biggest to the smallest, from the biggest battle rapper to the least name recognition battle rapper, and same for the leagues. So I'm going to use you as an example, but similar to what Surf said, the first thing needs to happen, there needs to be a parlay between the leagues, between certain leagues, by the way, right? Not every league is going to be invited to sit at this table immediately. But I think that URL, King of the Dot, TBL, for the purposes of this plan, we're going to loop in, let's just say that bullpen is active. iBattle.
Riot. How about Riot? We can go Riot.
We're getting there. We're getting there, right? Oh. I'm trying to get representation all across the country.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So we're going to get OSBL, iBattle, Riot for the West Coast. I know Geechee's gone right now, so I don't know how much he factors into that. So if we can't get Riot, let's say Westworld for now, right? Let's bring in for the Midwest. Let's bring in Black Ice, maybe Black Mafia Battle League, maybe Guerrilla Warfare, right? So we have Midwest representation, but we're looking to get, a coalition of somewhere between 5 to 7 leagues. One from the biggest, which is URL, King of the Dot. TBL's kind of right underneath them. And then we get Bullpen in the South. We got the Riot on the West Coast. We got we'll say Black Ice, right? Just for the sake of for the Midwest representation. I know TOS. There's going to be somebody here that you didn't mention. Yes, TOS. Shout out to y'all. Y'all are doing a good job in the Midwest. But I'm just going to go with the legacy league right now, right? In Black Ice. You have the East Coast with OSBL, and you got New York Northeast with iBattle. Okay. So you have these leagues come together. They say, we're going to have a parlay, and we're going to get all of our sponsors together, let them know that we are forming a coalition where we are going to take our network of battlers that we have, right? And we're going to sit down for the year and map out our schedule, right? So from January to December, we're going to take a list of battlers that we want to do business with. We're going to sign them to exclusivity contracts, right? So we're going to have guys who are going to battle on URL mainly, King of the Dot, iBattle, OSBL, so on and so forth, right? Now, within this coalition, you can go battle on these other leagues, but you can, if you're going to be seen, it's going to be within those 5 to 7 names. Does not mean that you are not allowed to battle outside of that. So I'm going to choose you as an example. Let's just say King of the Dot and Organic say, Ward, we're signing you to an exclusivity contract. We're going to give you a 2-battle deal, right? So we're not talking about we're locking you down for 2 to 3 years. This is a year-to-year negotiation. But we're going to guarantee you two battles on King of the Dot. You are a King of the Dot battle rapper, right? So when you go, if you step on another stage, it'll say King of the Dot for the promo. King of the Dot's AWAR will be on iBattle to take on FIBO, right? So we're going to give you 5 battles in 2027. FIBO, She Happens. I'm going to Calico, Eunice. I need one more. I'm going to say Chess for now. No, Shoddy Horror. Shoddy Horror, right? So that's your 5 battles in 2027. We're going to put Cal and Shoddy on King of the Dot. You'll get Eunice on URL. You'll get FIBO, iBattle, She Happens, OSBL, right? Those are your 5 battles. We're going to give you, in this contract, we're getting your direct deposit information because these dates are locked, set in stone. So 2 months or however long the duration is, we're going to set it that at 2 months, you're going to wake up and a direct deposit is going to be in your account because now you're contracted to start writing for this opponent, right? If you want, we're going to put clauses in that you cannot battle, you cannot take any battles 3 weeks prior to your contracted 5 battles. We're going to spread them out throughout the year. We're not going to jam pack them all. So you're going to have a steady stream of income from as much as we can make it happen from January to, let's say, November. We're going to give you, I said 5 battles. We're going to make it a $35,000 flat fee, right? So you're getting $7,000 per battle. I'm just throwing out numbers, right? Just throwing numbers out there. So for 5 battles, you're going to make $7,000 for each of those appearances. 3 weeks prior, you are locked in and focused on your opponent. Doesn't matter who wants to have you show up for a 1-rounder. Doesn't matter who backed out of a battle. All war. Can we get you? No, you cannot battle 3 weeks prior to these events. Now, if let's just say something pops off, right? You and Mook have a heated exchange. He says, I'll smoke you. You say, I'll smoke him. You guys start going, Mook might be too big of a name. I don't want to go that high. Hansel, right? I'm going to pick on a new school guy. you and Hansel start popping ish back and forth.
That de-escalated quickly.
I don't want to just focus on just like the biggest of the biggest and biggest names. Right? And there's no disrespect to Hansel. I like Hansel, but I want to say like you and Hansel start going back and forth on social media because normally the younger guys, they're trying to make their name for themselves too, right? So you start going back and forth with Hansel. You reach out to the coalition. Yo, I want to get this dude out of here. He says, yo, I want to get Ward out of here. The coalition says, we're looking at our schedule. We really don't see a place where we can make that battle happen for you this year. Once they tell you no, once these 7 leagues say we don't want to do it, now you can reach out to some league outside of that coalition to make that battle happen. So you still have opportunities to still book matches outside of that, right? As long as it doesn't fall into that 21-day window before you battle. To book this matchup with some outside league and make it happen. But still, when it happens, it's still going to be King of the Dots A-Ward is coming to ABCD Battle League to take on Hansel in this blockbuster matchup, right? And so the idea here is to, one, make sure that you as the battle rapper know you have a steady stream of income, right? So whenever these contracted dates hit, those first halves hit so you can start writing, you know you're going to get a back end because these matchups are set in stone. It gives you exclusivity. So you get to battle on King of the Dot. People get to know you as a King of the Dot battler, although you can battle on these other leagues within this coalition. If you have a matchup that the league says, we don't have room for, maybe we can't fit it in our schedule, maybe we don't like the matchup, we don't care to book it, you can still find outside leagues that want to book it and make it happen. And here's the last part. The last part is for any new and up-and-coming talent, right? We would use some of these OSBL, iBattles, Black Mafia, I'm going to throw Trenches in there, right? Where they can create their stars. They can create their stars of tomorrow and be branded. And let's just say, I'm going to pick on King now, right? King had a dope performance against Eunice. Shout out to Just Business 2 and Doc. Let's just say Easy hits you up and says, yo, I want to book you versus King. Right? Again, it's almost like you have, if you watch WWE, you have NXT, you have these battlers who will show up on, like you'll have Cody Rhodes who pulls up to NXT to battle Trick Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so to me, it gives fans an idea of, okay, the biggest and best matchups are happening on these brands that we know, we trust, that have reach. It gives the exclusivity of the battler to say, I know that you are a part of this network or this group, right? Here's the last kicker I didn't mention. So once a year, 2 things actually. Once a year, we have a mega weekend of battle rap. So I'm going to pick on Summer Madness, right? And maybe this moves around between King of the Dot and URL because they're the 2 biggest imprints that have signature series. So let's just say in 26, Summer Madness, it's a Summer Madness weekend. It's a 3-day weekend. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have meet and greets. We're going to have maybe podcasts, live podcast tapings, but it's going to culminate on Sunday with the biggest day in battle rap, where you have King of the Dot versus URL, or King of the Dot versus URL versus TB. However you want to put that together, right? Where you have these branded battlers, you have these cross entity matchups happening. You can still have matchups that happen within your own brand, but you have these cross matchups happening, biggest weekend of the year, right? The last thing I'll say, and I'll give you the opportunity to ask questions, rebut, say whatever. So with up-and-coming talent, this up-and-coming talent goes through OSBL, goes through iBattle, goes through this coalition, right, that's set up from coast to coast. So they, if you're a guy in California, you don't have to worry about trying to get to New York or trying to get to Florida. You can battle in LA, right? Build yourself up there. And then as you start to grow, you can start to move within this coalition of leagues. At the start of at a predetermined time, maybe once a year, once every 2 years, the big brands have a draft. And they say, we want to bring XYZ, shout out to XQZ, we want to bring XYZ to King of the Dot. We want to bring 1, 2, 3 to URL. And now these guys are officially a part of that brand, and they get to start to work their way up and build a name. To me, this gives the culture structure. If you have a whole year's worth of events planned, you can roll them out strategically. People know when they're going to happen, who's going to be on the cards. You can build storylines, you can build matchups. It gives the fan structure, something to look forward to. And then once you have Summer Madness weekend or World Domination weekend or Blackout weekend, if you want to swap out World Domination for Blackout, where these matchups collide, these worlds collide, now people can get behind their guy, they can get behind their brand, they can get behind their league. And I think, to me, that is something that the idea was cooked up even before Organic kind of came out with his long letter to the culture, right? But that was kind of what sparked it. But to me, that gives battlers pay, the decent battlers who are doing their thing, they're making sure they're getting compensated. They don't have to worry about what necessarily where that next check is coming from, because they know they already got things booked. It allows them the flexibility to pick up other battles outside of that window to get some additional bread. Gives the fans something to look forward to, gives us storylines, and it brings a little bit of structure. And so maybe you don't have to battle. Granted, you do it because you love it, right? So I'm not knocking you for that. But maybe you don't have to battle 20 times a year. You can only battle 8, right? Because you're going to make enough money doing good business with the coalition and outside ventures that it gives you less access. So your thoughts to that?
Yeah, I mean, I like how you started out in a perfect world, like I think that, the structure of it makes a lot of sense. It's just trying to be consistent in like a culture of completely inconsistent people. I think that you would find that you would only find 15 to 20 people who could actually find a way to show up and show out and make those scheduled type things actually happen. The other thing I think it takes away from is just the creative control of the artist. If I'm signed to 5 battles and I'm these are the names and these are the people and this is what I've got, as my schedule. By the 3rd battle, I might not want to battle the 4th guy because he might not have been putting on, you know what I mean? And now all of a sudden I'm giving him an opportunity to get back into good graces off my name, you know what I mean? Or like the creative, like, hey, creating my own buzz, navigating my own path, you know what I mean? I might go crazy and not want to battle anybody for, not me specifically, but if I'm a Surf or if I'm somebody that's, I might not want to, I might go crazy and be like, nah, I'm about to go work on my mixtape. I'm not battling nobody else again. I'm going to wait until I can get a big, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's just the creative control independently for an artist goes out the window, because then ultimately you do become a part of a league, right? And you're an entity as almost like a team would be like in the NFL, right? Like, I have a schedule and this is how I operate. And guess what? It's funny because in football, the Cowboys were the Cowboys one day. We still look at them like they're the Cowboys, but now they're not very good, Battle rappers' pride can't take that. Tay-Rock can't have a bad year, a Browns or a Cowboys type year, you know what I mean? And then the next year, I just feel like that, like when you're putting them in a position where they continue to have to battle and have to battle who you have situated accordingly. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's tough for the creative control independently of what battlers want to do. Now I think with the up and comers, this works perfectly because they're just more zealous. They're more like, yo, I just want Rick. I want to go around. I'll battle anybody. I'll battle whatever, whoever, whatever. But I think when you have like the vets and the people that are kind of already established themselves, they look at a lot of things a little bit differently. So it might make it difficult. But ultimately, like here's the thing. This is a very structured, very like well thought out situation. And battle rap is the exact opposite, even at the top of battle rap, even at the highest of heights of battle rap. You know what I mean? Like the biggest leagues, you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't, it would take, it would take something.
Years of reconstruction, deconstruction, reconstruction, changing of mindsets. I get that. But I understand what you're saying about the creative control. But to me, it is why you don't sign them to a 2-year exclude. It's why you sign them to battle deals. So let's just say,
and I think that's the thing is like, money talks, somebody might be much more okay with agreeing to something like this if the bag is substantially more than what they're commonly being paid, but if it's a situation where you're just giving me what I make anyway, well, I'll find a way to make that,
So what if we did this then? If I'm not going to choose a name because I don't want to put that smut on anybody's name. But if ABC battler who was hot in the beginning of 2026 falls off, starts choking, subpar material, up and down even in a round starts off really well but falls flat. What if the league had the ability to say, you know what, we'll still give you your front end because you were already contracted for that, but we're going to step away from this battle, right? And we're going to go a different direction.
Yeah, it's like equivalent of like a team put not necessarily IR because now you're injured and can't, but a team, waiving a player, right?
Yeah. So
now I've given control. Like I will say names. Imagine if URL made the decision to say, "Hey, Chess, like we're good." Like now they have stamped a negative cosign on Chess. Those don't happen, in battle rap. Like the minute you communicate to the world that I'm not signing up for allowing you to let the world know what you think I'm doing. You know what I mean? Even though I might, like, we're talking about a guy, Surf, that talked last night. The guy literally has not finished plenty of battles, has choked through plenty of battles. Some of the most powerful names in the culture, some of the most important, influential, like names in the culture, the biggest bags, the biggest battle rappers are there because of who they are, what they can possibly do, but not what they consistently do, So when you start assigning people to teams and stuff like that, you give the control to coaches and leagues and stuff like that to affect, how you operate.
But shouldn't that accountability be there, right? So
it should. That's what I'm saying, a perfect world. But if that accountability was there, we would have, New Jersey Twerk wouldn't have made it too much past the PGs. He wouldn't have all the summer madnesses and different opportunities that he's gotten, or a Chess and stuff like that. They would have been relegated back to what they should be doing. Once you get it together, come on back, and we wouldn't have the stars we have today.
I mean, I think that's the risk you got to take. Like, because there's too much belly aching when things don't go right. So when T-Top, when his whole card falls apart because of unfortunate circumstances, now it's I'm never going to another battle rap again. I'm never paying. Like, people want accountability. And I'm not saying this is you like making excuses. I'm just saying in general, people want accountability. So we've got to find a way to hold people accountable when these things happen. So I mean, that's just my stance on it. And I'll say this, and this is no disrespect to T-Top, to Straight Drop Media. I hope their event is successful. I salute him for coming back around and saying, yo, we messed up. You didn't get the product you expected. So we back. If you got the pay-per-view, you can watch for free. If you cop tickets, you can come back through, you get in for free. I appreciate that. But to me, Rum Nitty and Twerk rematch is not a battle that should happen on Straight Drop. You versus Chess is not a battle that should happen on Straight Drop. Just so I want to be consistent. Eunice and Shotty Horror, I don't even know the league, no disrespect. It's not a battle that should happen on that league. During the Cody conversation, they talked about Chef Trez and Hollow, and they're like, yo, that's some of Hollow's best. Trez's versus some of his best material ever. But it kind of got lost in translation because it happened on a smaller league. Like, no disrespect to these smaller leagues. But that's why I feel like they have to kind of take a back seat and allow the more established brands and names carry this. And again, if they get the opportunity to make the matchup, that's fine. But to me, the bigger names and brands that have the reach, they have the brand recognition, they have the brand trust and loyalty, they got to happen on those leagues. Because to Sir's point, you and Swamp, you mentioned it. Some of these matchups are really big matchups. They get lost in the mix because they're happening on leagues that are not as known and popular. And again, it's no disrespect. I want everyone to be successful, but I do think or some type of order has to be restored. I don't think the culture's dying.
Yeah.
I think it's stagnant. And I think it just needs reform.
Well, it also just has, I mean, and so one of the reasons why everybody's glad that Surf's home is because, once again, he's an influential voice and he's somebody that people like to follow, somebody people think that has it figured out, somebody who knows how to generate buzz, excitement, all that kind of stuff. Surf is able to do that. You know what I mean? And like you said, when this culture is stagnant, it kind of needs that because we don't have that through league owners, through matchmaking. You know what I mean? Like we don't like guys are in business now. They're like these are businesses that when businesses are making decisions, there's a reason why you got the one ply in the bathroom, right? Because they done looked at the budget and at your work spot and they're like, we could cut costs here. We could cut costs here. We could do this. We could do that because we need to find ways that, and these businesses are trying to find ways to spend less, to find cheaper work, to try to create, a situation like that. And what you're talking about would involve people getting their paycheck or their checkbooks out and thinking to themselves like, hey, it's going to pan out in the end. I know we're going to have to spend the money on this, this, and this, but it's going to create, an excitement. And I wonder, URL is a very interesting thing because they have their app, you know what I mean? And so, there's something that's quantifiable there. And I just wonder, like, over the last 6 years, have they noticed a complete, like, is it falling in app subscribers? Is it rising in app subscribers? You know what I mean? Sometimes you would think, like, if they're not making as much money as last year or the year before, or they're down 40%, that they would try to find a way to create that excitement, and maybe they think, through Surf, that can happen. But I also think a lot of these leagues don't know what the matches are that people want. I don't think they're as tapped in as you think they are. I don't think they're sitting back saying, dang, we could have had a Warden Swamp, but he's on another league right now. I think that they're just thinking like, hey, content.
Yeah, I hear you. Listen, Organic, Smack, Beasley, Chilla, for the tidy sum of
Organic, Smack, Beasley, and Chilla.
For the tidy price of flights for me and my wife to your events, and a hotel, by the way. Actually, I'll take care of the hotel. Just get my flight. Just get our flights.
Hilarious.
I will work with you all to help you create this, man. And because I want to see, from my time entering into battle rap, I've always wanted to see the culture grow. I agree with most who say I don't think you can allow it to reach Netflix because you're going to lose the essence of it if you let it get to that level. But to me, y'all should be able to entice some sponsors who want to put some money in this because there is a value in it. Even with the
I love the idea of like being able to wake up in January and knowing I have 6 battles for that year. You know what I mean? I love that idea. I think that would be.
I think it can work, man. I think it can work. And again, the incentive is there for the battler to be their best version of themselves, because if you have a stellar 2026 and the coalition comes to you to talk about 2027, you can say, yo, look at the numbers, look at the promo, look at the results. You gave me 35,000. I need 50 now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I need to step on it gives the battler, it doesn't strip all the leverage away from the battler. It gives them, but it incentivizes them to be the best version of themselves, because there's no guarantee that you'll be back on these stages in 2027 if you stink. There's no guarantee you make it to the end of 2026 if you stink it up. So put your best foot forward. Don't half step. I agree,
because it's all about accountability. Because to be honest with you, we have legends out here that still get paid crazy amounts of money that have stunk for years and years and years. You know what I mean? And they're solely based off their names.
Yeah. And so, I think it helps create the stars of tomorrow. And like I said, I think it gives the fan structure. I think caffeine, part of what made caffeine work, obviously the pandemic, we were stuck in the house, but URL was letting you know, we got this coming, and here are the matchups.
Mm-hmm.
You had something to look forward to. So I know you got to go. I know you got to get out of here. So anything else you want to say about this before we call it a night?
Nah, man. Yeah, no, it's a good thought process. I like it. And I'm all about, creating structure and accountability. I mean, because if there's one thing that I succeed in, it's the consistency of being being on time, being there, and bringing reps. You know what I mean, and not losing. So it definitely works out great for me. But no, yeah, just other than that, bro. Next week go to Champion, pick up my belt. Pick up my bag. If you're watching this and you want to donate to the GoFundMe, we'll post a link in the bio of the YouTube video when we drop it. But yeah, man.
I just want to say that the A1 does not endorse any of the names that are being called out during this podcast. I just want to say, so battle rappers, don't be looking at me. I kept it generic. I didn't mention no names. I did mention Straight Drop. I got love for T-Top. T-Top's a very nice guy, very cool guy in person. I hope that, the re-up, I believe is what the name of the new card is. I hope the re-up is successful. I hope everyone shows up, puts on good performances. As a fan and as a consumer, though, I just think that these big matchups, they got to stop happening on smaller leagues. They need to happen.
I'm not mad at that,
the more more widely brand known, recognized league. So respect.
Yeah, I agree. Some of these smaller leagues open up them checkbooks, you know what I mean, that the big leagues are not willing to do, and it makes it tough.
Well, again, I just think that the smaller league should open up that checkbook and say, we want to make this matchup on URL, or like, again, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah. Well, you have to understand too, the smaller leagues have aspirations to be the bigger leagues, So some leagues are not just okay with like, hey, we're the Delaware Blue Rocks. Like, we are a AA, facilitator to the MLB. And that's what, like in baseball, we know the Delaware Blue Rocks are not all of a sudden going to be an MLB team, And so the way that these smaller leagues look, the league owners, the people putting their money in there, they want bigger events. They want more battlers. They want bigger names. They want to be able to grow into that.
Well, what's wrong with being, now, I'm going to say this, and not, again, no disrespect. What's wrong with being iBattle, though? What's wrong with being OSBL, though? Like, I guess that's my thing. You don't have to be the league that brought Hitman Holla. Like, you don't. But you can be the league that creates. Again, I'm going to mention those two leagues again. OSBL, iBattle have their own culture. They have their own thing. They have their own stars that they've made on those stages that have since gone on and done are doing better things, but they can always come back to those places and battle. And it is a celebration. There's nothing wrong with that, smaller leagues. It's okay to just be a big fish in a small pond. You don't have to try to jump out there and you're a guppy swimming with the sharks and wondering why you're getting eaten, wondering why you can't survive out here. This life it's not for the faint of heart, especially under its current structure and setup, man. Like, I think if you were to have this structure, maybe you might be able to create something. But to me, again, no disrespect to nobody, I think these leagues would be better to pool their resources and work with these larger leagues to make something crack, and then continue to build their brand for the stars of tomorrow. Because it is a great thing to say that, I remember when A-Ward started on the Connects. Shout out to the Connects, right? The Connects would have been able to sustain itself, but like the Connects would have been able to become like a regional force that you see Midwest battle rappers come through and they can say, look who came through there, right? I saw Kels put up a post about, who are some of the best names to come through OSBL. It's a bunch of names that I know. Even if I haven't watched every battle, I recognize the names. I know who they are. I've seen some of their work. You can say the same for iBattle. You can say the same for Bullpen. You can say the same for a Black Ice. Again, there's something to be said for being a staple in this culture, even if you aren't the top dog. Everybody can't be the top dog. And I need some of y'all to embrace that and work on being great where you are. And maybe if the opportunity arises, then you can rise above your current circumstance. But everybody wants to come in on the top dog status. And respectfully, that's not for all of y'all. It's not. I'm sorry. So,
you're right.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate y'all. I'm going to try to have this up Well, we'll see. Listen, if there's one thing you want to wish on your worst enemy, tooth pain is that thing that you want to wish on your worst enemy. I got to have a dental procedure tomorrow. So if I'm not too doped up, I'm going to try to get this podcast out tomorrow. If not, it'll be Friday when I'm off work and in a much better physical condition. But thank you all for tuning in. Please remember, you can check out every episode of It's a Black and White Thing by going to the podcast app of your choice, wherever you get the good podcast. Give us 5 stars. You can also check us out here on YouTube occasionally, sporadically. You just never know when we're going to jump out there. By searching at Brains and Bars, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you can be tapped in every time we go live, every time a new drop happens. Leave a comment, talk to us, we talk back. You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, search at Brains and Bars, follow us there. Till next time, it's been a Black
and White
Thing, man. Y'all be easy. Y'all have a good night. Peace.
Peace.